bunch of strawberries and I just harvested some rhubarb. What a perfect combination for strawberry rhubarb jam. Hi everybody, welcome to Living Traditions Homestead. My name is Sarah. A couple days ago, the whole family took a trip to a strawberry farm and we picked a bunch of strawberries. We had a really great time supporting one of our local businesses. We don't have our strawberries planted yet, and maybe that will be this coming spring, but until then, I just really wanted some strawberries to do some canning. So I've been busy on the homestead the last couple days doing some canning projects, and I wanted to bring you along to share with you the strawberry rhubarb jam recipe that we'll be using on the homestead, and to kind of teach you how to make jam. I did a very extensive video on water bath canning, and I'll put a link to that up here so that you can refer to that. Today I'm not going to be so specific, so go ahead and check that out so you can learn all of the tips and tricks and have an opportunity to go real in-depth about how to water bath can. Today I'm pulling a recipe from my favorite canning book. It is the Ball Complete Book of Home Preserving. If you want to check this out, it's in our Amazon store for you to look at. But there are just a ton of recipes in here, 400 to be exact. And this is what I go to for a lot of the canning recipes that we use on the homestead. To start off with today, we are using crushed strawberries. We need 2 cups of that. So I've taken some of my fresh strawberries and I've put them in a bowl, and I've used my potato masher to crush them up just so that they're all kind of just smushed. I've measured those out in a measuring cup and I have set them aside. Now the rhubarb, you know, my rhubarb isn't very old, so I only harvested about 5 or 6 stalks off of it. I planted it last year and it was, you know, a year old already by then, but I don't want to go overboard. So I've chopped that also up into small pieces, and we will be using 2 cups of that as well. I have also pre-measured my sugar. In this recipe, there are 5½ cups of sugar. I like to have that all measured out before I even start mixing things. Once I get the fruit on the stove and it's boiling, I don't want to be fumbling around trying to measure sugar, and I just don't want to mess anything up. So I go ahead and measure this out. Now, 5½ cups of sugar. This isn't a low sugar or no sugar recipe. There are low sugar recipes online. Our family doesn't eat a whole lot of sugar, so having full sugar jelly or jam, you know, on a piece of toast or bagel or something like that, it doesn't really bother us because the rest of our diet really doesn't have a whole lot of sugar. And we're not going overboard in our house. You know, a tablespoon of jam, you know, big deal for us. But if sugar is an issue for you guys, there are low sugar and no sugar recipes online. So like I said, I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to start getting the fruit mixture ready to go on the stove. So, you know, easy enough. Just pour in your strawberries, pour in your rhubarb, we are going to be adding 4 tablespoons of lemon juice. Now that is to, number 1, increase the acidity, and number 2, it helps activate the pectin. And the pectin, I am using just classic pectin here. I buy it in one of these containers rather than buy the box. It just saves money, and one of these for me at the Walmart that I shop at, one of these is the equivalent to 3 boxes, but it's the price of 2 boxes. So basically you're getting 1 box free. So we're just going to add in the pectin at this time, and we're going to stir it around. Now we're going to stir that around really well to dissolve that pectin in there and to mix in the lemon juice before we put it on the stove top. At this point, we're going to take the pot over to the stove top and we're going to heat it up to the point of boiling. Now you don't need to stand there and stir it the entire time, but make sure you stir it often. Now when the mixture gets to a really good boil, a hard boil, you'll want to add in the sugar all at once and combine that, stir it to mix it all in, and at that point you'll want to continue stirring constantly. You can turn your burner up to high and keep stirring and keep stirring and keep stirring until your mixture reaches a hard boil. Now it's going to be hot, it's going to be bubbling everywhere, so take precautions, but it's important for it to boil hard like that for 1 minute. Set a timer and boil it like that and keep stirring for 1 minute. After that, you can turn off the heat and bring it back to the counter to start filling your jars. Okay, we're all set. Ready to get started canning this jam. I've got my jam here, jars, lids, rings, a canning funnel, my scooper, ladle. This is a tool that will measure the head space. I always call it a gapper, but it's not called that. And then a stick to get the air bubbles out. And I also have a cloth to wipe the rims on. So we are going to get started. This jam looks fantastic. I'm very excited. I hope it sets up well. These strawberries that we picked at the local farm were so juicy that it has a little bit more water content in it than normal strawberries. So if not, I don't really care because it's homemade. So we are going to be putting the jam in the jars, and we're going to be leaving 1/4 inch of head space in there. Using this canning funnel just to make things a little cleaner. These jars are hot, which basically tempers the glass so that when you're putting the hot sugar liquid into the jar, it doesn't crack or shatter. That looks good. It's a good level, and so now I'm taking my cloth and wiping around the rim, cleaning it off so that when I add the lid, it makes a proper suction adherence to the jar itself, and so that there's no debris there that prevents the vacuum seal there. I'm putting on a ring, finger tight, and I'm going to put that into my pre-warmed pot of water on the stove. I'm going to be using a jar lifter so that I don't burn my fingers when I put this in the water. Now make sure your pot of water has at least 1 inch of water above the top of your jars so that it will properly heat all the way around the jars. This recipe says that it should make 7 half pints, but I'm not real sure if that will be the case. I always get 1 extra jar ready in case there's too much, then I can just put the extra in there, or maybe I'll be lucky enough to have a whole nother jar of jam. On the first one, I forgot to get the bubbles out, but I think it'll be okay. Checking, good enough. Let me do that one more time. Now this year, there are changes in the rules for canning that you no longer need to heat or sterilize the lids. You can just put them right on your jar. That was actually a nice change. It's a time saver. Whew, that's hot. In that goes. So I'm going to just continue to do the same thing over and over until all of this jam is used up and the canner is full. Okay, they're all in there. So I'm bringing the pot of water back up to a boil. Once it starts boiling, we'll set a timer for 10 minutes. They'll process for 10 minutes. Then we'll take off the lid, continue processing for 5 more minutes, and then we can take them out of the water. Okay, all finished. They look fantastic. I'm super excited for them to be cool so that we can give them a try. You guys, thanks so much for joining me today. I hope that you learned something. I hope that if you haven't tried this recipe or canning in general, you give it a try. There's nothing to be afraid of. If this is your first time on our homestead, welcome. And if you like what you saw, right now is a perfect time to hit the subscribe button below. If you are one of our traditionalists that watches every single video, thank you guys so much and welcome back. Hey, the best way to share about our channel and about this particular topic is to share it on social media, share it over email with your family and friends. We would appreciate it. Until next time, you guys, thanks so much for stopping by the homestead. Take care and God bless.